Your credit card company is waiting for you to make one mistake. Not a big mistake. Not maxing out 5 cards or going bankrupt. Just one forgotten payment. $40. And the moment you make it, they are legally allowed to permanently raise your interest rate to 29.99% on your entire existing balance busts without changing a single thing about your creditworthiness. The worst part? It's written in your card agreement right now. You signed off on it. You just didn't know. Here's what I want you to do before we go any further. Think about the number sitting on your credit card right now. Just the number, because by the end of this video, you're going to find out exactly how much that one forgotten payment is actually going to cost you. And it is going to be a much bigger number than you think. If your card issuer raised your interest rate tomorrow, would you even notice on the statement before it cost you money? My name is Nick, and I spend way too much time thinking about the hidden mechanics inside your credit card agreement. The stuff buried in page 11 of the fine print that banks are technically required to tell you, but count on you never actually reading. If you've ever paid a credit card bill most months, felt like you were managing things fine, but have been even a little late on a payment, this video is for you. Because today we're talking about the penalty APR, how it works, what triggers it, why the math is so much uglier than the bank wants you to realize, and how Chase, Citi, Bank of America, and practically every major issuer in the country have built this system into every card you carry. Hit subscribe and give this video a thumbs up if this ends up helping you out. Let's get into it. Okay, most people have a vague idea that if you miss a credit card payment, something bad happens. You get a late fee, maybe $30 or $40, your credit score takes a hit. You catch up next month, you move on with your life. That is the mental model most people have, and it's not entirely wrong. The late fee is real. The credit score damage is real. But there's a third thing that most people have no idea about, and it dwarfs both of those combined. It's called the penalty APR, also sometimes called the default rate, and it can take your interest rate from wherever it is today, plus, let's say a typical 22%, and jack it all the way up to 29.99%. In some cases, permanently. You might be thinking, okay, Nick, that's like an 8% difference. It can't be that bad. We're going to do the math together, and you are not going to like what you see. Here's a number that stopped me cold. According to a Federal Reserve study, nearly 1 in 3 cardholders has been late on a credit card payment at least once in the past year. 1 in 3. Statistically, this has already happened to you. Or, it's about to. Here's what most people don't realize. The penalty APR doesn't kick in after one missed payment. It kicks in when you're 60 days late, so technically you miss one due date, and nothing happens immediately. That sounds almost reasonable, right? Except here's the thing. If you miss this month's payment and forget about it, because life happens, and then miss next month's too, you're at 60 days. You just crossed the line. And the bank doesn't call you. They send a letter that looks exactly like every other promotional piece of mail they've sent you, and you probably throw it away. Now, the late payment is the obvious trigger, but I want to walk you through the other 3, because one of them made me genuinely angry when I found out about it. Trigger 2, a returned payment. You paid. You scheduled it. You hit confirm. You felt responsible. Except your bank account was short. The payment bounced. The credit card company treats a bounced payment exactly the same as a missed payment. You paid, and you still got penalized. Trigger 3, going over your credit limit. Some cards allow the transaction to go through and then charge you for it. Cross that limit, and depending on your agreement, you're in penalty territory. Trigger 4, and this is the one that makes me want to flip a table. You did a balance transfer. You were smart. You moved $6,000 to a 0% promo card to avoid interest while you pay it down. Smart move. Disciplined person. And then 1 month, one single month, you miss the minimum payment. Your 0% deal? Gone. Immediately. They flip it to 29.99% on the $6,000 you specifically moved there to stop paying interest on. You tried to do the right thing, and the system punished you harder for it. Do you know what the average penalty APR was in 1990? 12%. Today it's nearly 30%. While inflation roughly doubled the cost of living over 35 years, the rate banks can charge you for one mistake more than doubled too. Almost nobody talks about this. Before I show you the math, I want you to make a guess. You have $5,000 on a credit card. Your rate jumps from 22% to 29.99% because of one late payment. You're making minimum payments every month. How much extra do you think you'll pay in interest because of that rate change? Take a guess. $50 a month? A couple hundred total? Pick a number. The answer is $4,500 in additional interest. $4,500. That is almost the entire original balance in extra money you pay, on top of what you would have paid anyway, because of one missed minimum payment of roughly $45. The ratio of punishment to mistake is 100 to 1. Here's the full breakdown so you can see exactly where that number comes from. At 22% APR, $5,000 balance, $150 a month minimum payment. Payoff time is about 49 months. Total interest paid, about $2,300. Total you pay back, $7,300 at 29.99% APR, same balance, same payment. Payoff time jumps to about 79 months. That's 30 extra months. 2.5 more years of your life. Total interest paid, about $6,800. Total you pay back, $11,800. You borrowed $5,000. You paid back $11,800. The bank made more money from you than you originally spent. And the entire reason is a payment you forgot to make. Once. And that $4,500 difference? That's the tame version. Because the real trap is not the higher rate by itself. The real trap is that a higher rate slows down your payoff, which means you stay in debt longer, which means more interest keeps stacking on top of the original mistake. So what looked like one bad month can quietly turn into a 30-month penalty for a payment you forgot in about 30 seconds. Would a forgotten payment still feel small if I told you it could cost more than a new laptop, a year of car insurance, or a 3-day vacation? Because those are the actual numbers we're talking about. Here's what most people assume after they've triggered the penalty APR. Okay, I'll just pay on time next month and the rate goes back down. Nope, that is not how this works. After a penalty APR is applied, issuers are generally required to review your account after 6 consecutive on-time payments. Review is the key word, not forgiveness, not automatic, review. This is where it gets really interesting. The penalty APR is not just a punishment for what you did. It becomes a test of whether you can now perform consistency while under financial pressure. So if your life is messy, cash flow is tight, you're already stressed, the system is basically saying, prove you're stable while we make the debt more expensive. And if you slip once during that 6-month stretch, you can extend the penalty even longer. That is why this is not just a fee problem, it's a momentum problem. The bank may be required to give you 45 days notice before raising your rate. Ask yourself honestly, when was the last time you read one of those letters like it contained a financial emergency? Look, the person who misses a credit card payment is usually not irresponsible. It's usually somebody whose life got noisy. They paid rent, answered work emails, dealt with family stuff, bought groceries, maybe even paid 3 other bills on time. And then the one bill with the nastiest penalty structure? That's the one they avoided, because it created the most stress to look at. That's the cruel part. The bill you're most tempted not to open is often the one that gets dramatically worse when you don't open it. Psychologically, this makes perfect sense. When a financial problem feels emotionally loaded, your brain doesn't say, "Let me solve that immediately." Your brain says, "Not today." And this is also why minimum payments are so dangerous mentally. Not because they're useless, they can absolutely prevent disaster, but because they create the feeling that you've handled the problem when you've often only delayed the consequences. The bank doesn't need you to fail completely. It just needs you to stay disorganized long enough to become more profitable. That's it. They don't want you to collapse. They want you to wobble. That's why I get frustrated when people treat this as a discipline problem. It isn't. Most people who get hit by penalty APR aren't chaotic spenders. They're normal people with a temporary cash flow problem and no buffer. That's not a character flaw. That's what happens when your finances are too tight for error. What costs you more in your life right now? Bad luck, or a system that assumes you'll remember everything perfectly every single month? If you've already triggered the penalty APR, first thing, call the issuer, right now. Don't wait until you have the perfect script. Call. Ask whether the rate can be reduced, whether fees can be waived, and what specific behavior gets you back to the standard APR. A lot of issuers have internal hardship programs that customers never ask about. And here's the tension most people miss. The earlier you call, the more your story sounds like temporary mistake. The longer you wait, the more your profile looks like ongoing risk. Same situation, totally different interpretation. If the rate won't budge, a balance transfer to a 0% promo card is worth exploring, but only if you use it as a payoff tool, not a hiding place. A 0% transfer is not a solution. It's a timer. And timers are great for disciplined people. They are terrible for people who are hoping the problem would emotionally disappear. All right, here's the practical playbook. 1. Turn on autopay for at least the minimum payment, not as your full strategy, as your emergency floor. One move, that's it. It can stop a stressful month from turning into a much more expensive year. 2. Don't trust your memory. I know that sounds harsh, but memory is not a financial system, especially when life is busy. Set a calendar reminder a week before the due date and another one 2 days before. You are not trying to be disciplined. You are trying to be hard to break. 3. Keep a $100 to $300 buffer in your checking account specifically for payment reliability. This is not about earning a return. This is about buying yourself a margin of error. 4. Read the penalty. APR language on your actual card agreement, not your friend's card, not a Reddit thread, your card. Once you know the trigger, the game changes. The rule goes from invisible to avoidable. 5. If you're carrying a balance and falling behind, stop using the card. This sounds obvious, but a lot of people keep swiping because they're trying to preserve cash. That can work for a week and wreck you for a year. 6. If you've already been hit, track the 6-payment runway. Your next 6 statements matter more than your feelings about what happened. One automated minimum payment can be worth more than hours of budgeting advice if it prevents the clock from resetting. Notice what almost none of these steps require: more financial knowledge. They require fewer decision points. That's the real upgrade. So here's the thing that really matters: penalty. APR is not just a credit card story, it's a story about how expensive life gets when you give a financial system permission to respond to your delay. You do not need a finance degree to avoid this. You need a system that works on your worst day, on a day, not your best day, because on your best day, everybody is good with money. On your best day, you remember the due date, you check the app, you make the payment. The problem is that money systems are not tested on your best day. They're tested on your messiest one: when you're traveling, when you're sick, when work is insane, when your checking account is low, and your brain says, "I can deal with this next week." That is exactly the moment the lender's system starts doing what it was designed to do: translate your temporary chaos into permanent profit. One auto payment, one calendar alert, one checking buffer. That's how you protect yourself. Not with motivation, with friction and systems. If this video did its job, you should now be a little annoyed, a lot more alert, and significantly less likely to donate $4,500 to Chase or Citi because of one forgettable billing cycle. Subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Before you click off, what is the one bill in your life that would hurt the most if you forgot it for 60 days? Go set the autopay right now, not after this video, now.